Okay, welcome back to this course on understanding design thinking and people-centered design, and we are now on to the next part of our journey, which is concepting and building, right? We focused initially on the introduction and then problem discovery. We understood how do we discover the problem that we're trying to solve and uncover the right problem to solve. Then we did research and analysis with users and tried to understand what their needs are, what their criteria, what their constraints are, and then thereafter we arrived at our insights for design, and we arrived at our design strategy statement, and we now have our how might we questions that help us to get started, right? So in this section we will learn how to conceptualize designs, how to create a concept from all the different ones that we come out with. Then we will learn about storyboarding, which is how do you now create a story, how do you create a representation of how this product is going to live in the users' lives. Okay, again we are being futuristic over here. All of this is we're thinking ahead. It's like doing our homework ahead of time and predicting in the future what it's going to be, so that we again come back to the business aspect of it, so that we can minimize our risks, minimize the failures. We've failed many times through in order to reduce the risks, in order to eliminate what does not work. That is the whole point of this approach. And then we'll also learn about rapid prototyping, which is the approach through which we make our designs. A very important part of being a design thinker is to be able to make what you have in your head. Okay, so let's get started with this third part, which is concepting and building. In this we will cover generating ideas. How do you come up with different ideas? We will cover a method called top 5 ideas as an example of how to ideate, and then we will speak about how do you take all these bunches of ideas, through this converging and diverging process that we talked about. How do we bring all these ideas together into one single concept? Okay, and then how do we create scenarios and storyboards, scenarios that now depict how before this we were speaking about scenarios of the existing situation of the user, right? Now we will be speaking about the scenario where this product is living in the user's life. Okay, so what is that scenario like? And then we'll speak about rapid prototyping. As I said, it's about making the product that we're looking to design quickly, rapid prototyping. Okay, so let's get started with the section on generating ideas. I'm sure you've been faced with situations where, when you're trying to ideate, you have to come up with different ideas and you have such a mental block. You're not able to come up with the right idea. It's like your brain is not delivering on what you're asking it to do, right? So let's look at a few techniques, tools and techniques that we use that that we use oftentimes as designers that help to generate ideas, right? The first of them is ideate beyond borders, right? So first thing is, you define for yourself a certain border of your problem, right? This is your problem. So remove those borders, ideate beyond that, start to think beyond and beyond. And through questioning you can say, we'll speak further about the kind of questions you can ask to push the boundaries outwards. But what you're doing in the process of this is when you work within a border, you're working within constraints, right? The uppermost thing is the constraints. When you work outside the borders, when you try to operate outside the border, what you're focusing on is the possibilities. Okay? So instead of focusing on the constraints, we try to focus on possibilities. That is what ideating beyond borders is all about, right? Ask questions to push these boundaries, right? So let's say we have a goal that says we want to achieve working literacy for women in 30 days. And perhaps, majority would say that's impossible. We can't do that. Can't be done. Can't be done is a very common phrase that we hear, particularly in industry. It happens a lot because in industry risks are difficult, right? It's understandably difficult, but if we are able to say, why not? Why can't we do it in 30 days? Let's think about it. Let's think about how we can do it in 30 days, right? That is the design thinker's approach, okay? So push the boundaries by asking questions. What are some of the questions that we ask? Why, right? Why does this have to be this way? Why is this, not being delivered in this way, right? The second question that we ask is why not? Why not? If we think again about that 30 days for working literacy among women, why not? Why can't we do it? Of course we can do it, right? Next question, very important question we ask is called, what if? What if I said, I need you to design so and so product and it must not have a user manual, no user guide. What if we could come up with this product without a user manual, right? If we don't even ask that question, we will never even try. So these are the important questions that we ask in order to push our boundaries outwards. And what happens in those boundaries? There are possibly those brilliant solutions out there that we have not thought about. That if we stayed within our boundary, we might come up with the most humdrum solution, with the most average incremental kind of solution. But if we would have done this kind of exercise, perhaps we would have gone beyond. What else do we do in generating ideas? We generate many ideas. We generate many ideas. And we're perfectly comfortable that some will work and some will not work. It's okay. Generate many ideas. You will generate a lot of noise amidst the signals. You will generate some garbage amidst the good stuff, but keep generating. If you don't generate, how will you know which is good and which isn't, right? So many ideas, and be very comfortable and okay that you will throw away several of those ideas. Okay? So these are the methods used by designers, all right? So we generate ideas and then moving on to innovating products from those ideas. How do we go about that? After we've generated all these many ideas, we've discarded some, we've combined some, we rationalize and integrate to one unified concept. One unified concept that we all agree on, that is the right design. Remember that word, right design? Yeah? And then we quickly prototype it to understand how good or not it is. Until we take it out of our computers, out of our heads, out of our sheets of paper, we will never know whether it makes sense or not. So it's very important to prototype it. It may be very crude, and we will learn in this section how you can create simple, quick prototypes just to inform you whether this even makes sense or not. Okay? so that you can discard it if it doesn't make sense, so that you can discard it very early when it is much less expensive to discard ideas, right? So quickly, the word quickly is very important. And then iterate with users. Once you've made something, you bring your users in, iterate, refine, iterate, refine. Okay? So that is the general approach that we follow. Again, methods used by designers. And not to forget, adopt the 7 mindsets that we spoke about as the hallmark of design thinking. Let's look at them one more time. Creative confidence. Have the confidence that you have the ability to create these big ideas, these really amazing solutions. You're going to come up with something amazing, right? And you have the ability to act on it. Make it. That you're going to make it by taking the risk out, by making something simple first. You will always learn from it. Learn from failure. And again, don't think of it as failure, but experiments. Remember what a scientist does, right? Do they first straight away come up with the final discovery? No. They experiment and they refine, and they experiment again and they refine. So this is what we need to do in the design thinking approach as well. Empathy. For new solutions, you must observe, know, and understand people. So we covered this already in the last section about how important it is for you to wear that empathy hat and then be going out and interacting with your users. Okay? Speaking with them, observing them, feeling their pain, and coming back to take those as insights for design. Embrace ambiguity. Like I said, think of exploring lots of different possibilities with the notion that many of them will be thrown away. But unless you have different possibilities, the right answer will not reveal itself. Okay? This is a very important word. Remember, it's not that you will come up with the right answer. The right answer will reveal itself, and this is a process that lends itself very well to that revelation, that realization that what is the right design. Number 6 is optimism that drives you forward. That sense of optimism must be there. Therefore, from there comes the notion of why not? Unless you're optimistic, you're not able to practice this notion of why not. Okay? And then number 7 is iterate, iterate, iterate. Keep refining your idea so that it can lead you to a better and better and better solution. So adopting these 7 mindsets are a very important part, particularly keeping them in mind at all times, as well as important during this ideation phase. Okay? Let's now look at some methods and tools and techniques for generating ideas. Those of you in industry will know that brainstorming is one of the most popular techniques. It's one of the most common techniques, and it's practiced a lot, right? So what is brainstorming? So those of you who don't know, brainstorming is a technique where we come together as a group of people, and we sit down and we put a problem on the board, an issue on the board that we want to generate ideas on, and we then start to come up with ideas. We speak out, we shout out our ideas, and one person is writing all the ideas on the board. Okay? So very important rule of brainstorming that needs to be respected is that there are no bad ideas. We don't discard any ideas. Anything that's coming out, let it come out. There is no such thing as a bad idea, right? So that's the part of brainstorming. And why does it work? Number 1 is because there's a group involved. Number 2 is because, you know, everyone's generating ideas. And number 3, that it creates lots of possibilities. Okay? We don't take one solution, one person coming up with one solution, and that's the end. However, why does it not work? Okay, there are various limitations to brainstorming, even though it's one of the most popularly used techniques. There's one person holding a pen, okay, and the others are shouting out their ideas or speaking out their ideas. So it doesn't often become truly democratic, okay. It's not, everyone doesn't have a pen. Second thing is, despite the rule that says there are no bad ideas, there are always shy people, there are always reserved people who hesitate to share ideas in the middle of everybody. There are also, people who feel intimidated in sharing in a group, and many people feel they may have a great idea, but they would feel, I think, it's not such a good idea. So even though they have the ability to, that there's no criticism to ideas, they might still feel that, it's not, I wonder if that's a stupid idea, and let me not say it. So that's the way it goes, right? And the reverse also of the shy people, there are some who are loud, who are more extroverts. So generally what happens is it doesn't end up being a balanced eliciting of ideas. Oftentimes what happens is there are some people's ideas go out and some people's don't go out as well, okay. So let's look at some other idea generation techniques, and we will talk further about what's a better way to brainstorm a little later down the line. So let's look at some different idea generation techniques other than brainstorming. So one of them is to challenge the assumptions, right? So let's say, we talked about that walking stick on the first day. So then let's say we challenge that basic assumption that, we don't need a walking stick. We're going to come up with something that is a substitute for a walking stick. That is going to make the person feel very good because they look good holding that, whatever that thing is, right? So it's very easy to, there will be people who say, how can you have life without a walking stick? How can you even imagine? It's not possible to come up with a substitute for a walking stick, right? So challenge those assumptions. Say that, yes, we're going to try and come up with something very different. Reword the problem. We saw some of this in the beginning where, if I say design a vase versus design a way for people to enjoy flowers in their home, you saw what a difference that can make to how you start thinking about the problem and possibly the kind of ideas that you might generate. So another technique is called thinking in reverse, right? So how do you do this? Instead of trying to solve the problem, you try and make it more difficult. And in that process, sometimes amazing ideas come up. So let's say you're working on a problem that it is focused on how can you encourage children to eat more vegetables, right? So let's say you're really stuck and then you say, how can we, make children not eat vegetables? How can we make sure they don't eat vegetables at all? It's a wacky, crazy way to think about it, right? But try it. It really works, okay? Another is using random input. What random input might that be? And again, idea generation is not easy. Sometimes you get stuck, right? So random input is perhaps you open a dictionary or a random book and you pick a word from it. Pick a random word that has no connection and then try and say, how does this word connect with our problem, right? From the dictionary. And then it might just generate some beautiful ideas, beautiful new things. Get someone else's perspective. This is again something that works really well. Sit down and chat with your child about the problem that you're working on. And you'll be amazed sometimes at the insights that they can give you, because you're trying to peep into their world, peep into their way of thinking. How do they think about this problem? Because you have been thinking about this a lot and you're kind of stuck, right? So talk to your mother about it. Talk to your, random friend or acquaintance who you don't know that well, talk to them about it. What are how do they think about it? So someone else's perspective can often unlock some of those blocks, right? Change of environment. This I can, vouch for because it really, really works. Just step into a different environment and you'll find it so much easier to generate ideas, okay? Sitting in that same conference room or in that same classroom, it starts to, not let you be as creative. Fun and humor, it always works. Try and make a fun activity out of it. Maybe make a competition out of it. Who can come up with the most ideas, who can come up with the most wacky idea, and everyone would vote on it or something like that. So then that lends a sense of fun and humor to it. If I were game, which is metaphorical thinking, right? If I were Superman, or if I were Sachin Tendulkar, if I were whatever it is, right? And then how would you approach the problem? Okay, so these are some methods that can help you that we use typically to generate ideas. Now, why is it important to come up with all these different ideas? Why are we insisting on, widening possibilities, coming up with many ideas and then zeroing? Why do we not start with the problem and immediately start narrowing and focusing on the solution? Because your best solution may be out here. You would have been on this path and you would have never looked in this direction, right? Instead, so in this kind of situation, you would be refining a problem. You would be doing incremental work. You would be, just enhancing it, finessing it, right? Instead, if you are in this exploratory mode, something in this direction, three ideas in this direction, different directions, then you may zero in on the best possible idea, right? And then from this point on, you can refine to make it better and better and better. Okay, so you will not have lost this very nice idea. So I hope you appreciate the need and importance of coming up with various ideas and many ideas. Okay, and what does this do for the user? In this, you may be just solving their problem, just solving it, and in this you might be delighting them. Because why? You have taken that additional step, stepped out of the comfort zone, stepped out of your little, this may be your comfort zone, you've stepped out of it and you've gone ahead and actually discovered what the deeper, more needed requirements of the user is. Okay? So let's now look at the different questions that we can ask as designers in order to provoke our thoughts, right? So the first question is, what if? Let's look at some examples of this, right? So what if a hive of honeybees were to approach this problem? This is one way of looking at it, right? So in fact, we were working on a design problem where we were looking to encourage more voting behaviors among youngsters. How can we motivate young people to vote more? And one of the things we thought about was this, what if it were a hive of honeybees, how would they approach this problem? What if I was a paraplegic child? What if I was lying in my bed and I needed to communicate with the world, or I needed to be able to plan XYZ? What if I was a paraplegic child, right? What then? How would I design? How would you design for this situation? What if this product that I've just asked you to create had to be eco-friendly? It has to be eco-friendly. Okay, what then? What if this had to be usable by a non-literate? Remember the contacts of that person with the phone, the low literacy person with low literacy. So what if we had to design something for her, that this phone that she uses has to be usable by a non-literate? Then what? What would we do? So let's look at an example on what if for a bank. A bank is perhaps one of the most sort of serious notions that we can think about, right? What if for a bank? What if there was no more cash anywhere ever for anything? Okay, so if you're ideating for a bank, maybe let's think about this. What if my money was a part of me? It's not something external that I take out of my bag or I store somewhere else. It's a part of me. How could we make that happen, right? What if your money is yours immediately? So let's say I have to give you some money and immediately you have it in your hand, okay? What if I never paid another fee ever again? Let's say your credit card fee or your bank, whatever, minimum balance fee or whatever it is, right? What if I never paid another fee ever again? Is that possible? Why not? What if my bank partnered with me to share both risk and reward? Both risk and reward. What if I could switch banks with the tick of a box? Okay? What if my bank was like a personal trainer? You know, what does a personal trainer do for you? They work with you, they motivate you, they help you, they set goals for you, and then on an ongoing basis, they keep making sure you're exercising and staying to your exercise plan and to the weight goal or the health goal that you have in mind. So what if my bank was like that, but instead of being a personal trainer, they are a financial trainer? What if my bank was as small as me? You know, when you first read some of these, they may feel ridiculous, but therein lies some of the inspiration for different ideas, right? Secondly, let's look at asking why not. So why not is that golden band between research-based design and creative design. So through your research basis, you have come up with a sort of a foundation of what needs to be done. What is the basic general area, general theme in which you need to design. Now, this is the point at which you ask the question, why not, in order to take it from here in two different directions, right? It can be that make or break between an average and an amazing design. If you have not asked that question, why not? You know, you may never get to this amazing design. Remember that, zone outside of that path, this is what we're looking to get to. So the product that I shared with you earlier, that office product where we had set the goal, and again based on a business requirement of 15 minutes for setup by someone with high school education with no calls to the helpline, right? It's possible, many people would say, oh, that's impossible. That can't be done, cannot be done. Why not? Let's try. A Procter & Gamble example. If we think about a mop without sweeping, you don't sweep the floor, you directly mop it. Many would say, that's impossible, you can't do it. What will we do with all the dust? But somebody said in Procter & Gamble, why not? And thereafter came this amazing design. Music library outside the player. I'm sure at some point there were a lot of people who said, that's a ridiculous idea. How can you not have your music in the player? Why not, right? And you know where it's led to. Anyone can drive anybody, anywhere. Impossible? Why not? And that is what has led to what we know as Uber is today, okay? So why not is a very powerful question to ask, especially when you are at the end of your research basis, and then to launch off into a spectrum and a range of possibilities for ideas. Let's now come back to brainstorming. Okay, we spoke about brainstorming as one of the most powerful and most popularly used techniques. However, we also understood what were some of the limitations. So what could be an effective way of brainstorming? One way is that everyone writes. Everyone writes their thoughts. So it's not one person holding the pen, but everybody has a pen and everybody is writing down their ideas. Even the shy people, even the reserved people, even the loud people, even the extroverts, even the introverts, everyone is writing. Okay? So that is one effective technique. So everyone's all ideas are coming out onto the table. Writing individually. Okay? Not discussing. Each one, so that way, you know, my ideas come out and then your ideas and your ideas and your ideas, everybody's ideas get to come out, rather than me express an idea and then everybody comments on it and all that. So writing individually brings out maximum ideas. May not be all good ones, but then use the group to evaluate those ideas. This is a way to effectively brainstorm, right? Because a group is very good at evaluating and building consensus. And then frame the problem appropriately, neither too narrow, not too broad. Too narrow is design a vase. Too broad is that we're going to do something about the education of all children everywhere. That's too broad. It was narrowed down to, you know, we're going to focus on the first 5 years of life and how parents can ensure that children's first 5 years of life is enriched, right? So frame the problem appropriately. You know, when we talked about also design a way for people to enjoy flowers in their home, we had broadened it to even say design a way for people to enjoy flowers, right? That makes it very broad. So perhaps we needed to narrow down. So this is the part about framing the problem appropriately. And then separate idea creation from idea screening, for which groups are better. This process, you know, make it separate processes. Okay? So this makes brainstorming much more effective. So while if in your organizations you are already doing brainstorming, try doing it this way and you'll find that it is much more effective. This is an interesting write-up by Joshua Brewer that I'd like to highlight to you about constraints. Many times when we're in the process of ideating, we think that, you know, constraints are limiting. If we have constraints, that means you cannot be creative. That is not true. We often are led to believe that the more freedom we have, the more creative we will be. No timetable, no budget, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. That's not true. So he says, I say, embrace your constraints. Embrace your constraints and draw out of them the very solution that sets you apart from the crowd. This is a very important part. This is where, you know, you can't just be blue sky. Take your, be blue sky, but take your constraints into consideration as well. The imposition of constraints can lead to great design decisions. Limitations often force you to view things from a perspective you're not accustomed to. Okay, it's very easy to dismiss things, embrace them, right, and work with them. So, you know, he talks also about how many constraints the iPhone and iPod worked under, right? They went through, it's not that they just had no constraints, they had tons of constraints, but they came up with a brilliant disruptive solution. Are there problems with the iPhone? Yes, of course there are. The point is, if you want to create a truly compelling experience, don't complain about your constraints, embrace them. This is a very insightful, important statement that I would like you to keep in mind. That it's not that, you know, creativity is just about blue sky and then constraints means you have to come up with a very boring, most obvious solution. Embrace your constraints and try and fuel your creativity from within and by embracing those constraints. Constraints fuel creativity.